Parity comes to the WNBA. I'll tell you why it matters, plus some business chat and what we're going to learn this week. Locked on Women's Basketball starts now.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, everyone, and happy Tuesday. Welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball. I'm your host, Howard Megdal, and I want to thank you for making us your first listen every single day, showing up for us the way we show up for you 6 days a week. It is, of course, not just me. It is the incredible team across the board at The Next, over at thenexthoops.com. You can see all we're doing, over 100 reported pieces every month. You want to be part of the action? Become a paid subscriber. Get it all delivered right to your inbox. $9 a month or $72 a year for all this coverage. thenexthoops.com. We're going to talk about parity, the fact that it is here for the WNBA, a really difficult league. We're going to hear from our correspondents around the league. Going to then later on in the show get to a business chat, some conversation about the collective bargaining agreement negotiations, some conversation about things the WNBA supposedly got wrong. That's not clear to me they got wrong. And then, of course, in our final segment, what we'll learn this week. But I want to start with parity. Throw some simple numbers your way. Over the last 10 games, every single team has at least 3 losses in official league play, with the exception of the Minnesota Lynx. Only 2 losses officially, but of course that third loss to the Indiana Fever in the Commissioner's Cup doesn't count in the standings, counts in our hearts. And so when you look at this league and what is possible come playoff time, the possibilities are endless. Minnesota, the 1 seed right now, 17-2. But again, there's a vulnerability there that wasn't there before. I still think overall, so far, Minnesota has played on balance best of anyone. I think that extends beyond record. I know it does because they lead the league in offensive rating and defensive rating as well. Clearly, New York right there when they are fully healthy. But our Jackie Powell caught up with Sabrina Ionescu about the fact that that just hasn't been happening. Let's hear more from the two of them right now.
It'd be easy when you're down that many starters to just show up and we win because we're the New York Liberty. You're going to have to find a way to win and dig really deep. And, it's been tough. We just haven't been able to really catch a break, I feel like. And we'd rather see this adversity early on in the year and be able to hit the ground running when it really matters most. But we're going to be just fine.
Again, Sabrina gets it and understands, has a championship experience, the pedigree that so many of the Liberty have. But without Jonquel Jones, let alone their other primary starters, Leo Fibich is a big loss. She was missing for weeks. Jonquel Jones, as important as anyone on this team. So truly, it's important to keep in mind the Liberty have a really high ceiling, as do the Lynx. But again, so do the Atlanta Dream. And our Wilton Jackson caught up with the Dream postgame after Monday night's victory. Significant, important to understand. Everyone's doing it right now for the Dream.
Hey everyone, I'm Wilton Jackson here with the Knicks, and I'm live at Gateway Center Arena where the Dream defeated the Golden State Valkyries 90-81. The Dream improved to 12-7 overall on the season. They also improved to 8-3 at home this season. This was a game Dream found themselves down by 12 points against the Golden State Valkyries, but they fought back specifically in that second quarter and even going into halftime. You start looking at the team leaders for this game. Alicia Gray led the team with 24 points, but the biggest takeaway from this game was the impact and play of Naz Hillman. Of course, she was getting on Dream, but her three-point shooting, she hit 4 of 7 from deep in this game. She finished with a season-high 16 points, and it really was truly the difference maker in the win for the Atlanta Dream. You're talking about Ryan Howard, who also finished with 15 points. Brianna Jones totaled 14 points, and BG finished with 11. And after the game, I talked with Coach Semesco, and he said, obviously, while Nas Hillman was the key catalyst in helping them win this game, he also was pleased with the impact of his bigs in the paint, specifically from Brianna Jones and BG, along with Nas Hillman doing the little things that she always does to help this team get a win. So now the Dream, after winning this game at home, they open up a 6-game road trip that they will begin on Friday when they face the Indiana Fever.
Ultimately, there's a lot to love about what Nas Hillman has become as a player. It just blows me away. She's 35.2% from three. She had one made three-point field goal attempt in 6 attempts in her first 3 seasons combined in this league. 385 minutes played, 19 made threes already, doing it at a significant clip. Again, Carl Smesco, an offensive genius. I don't hesitate to use that term, but having someone like Brandy Poole right there on the staff, working with this team as well. I mean, it's really incredible. And it's not coming at the expense of the rest of her game, is the other part of it. She's got an assist percentage of 16%. That's almost double what she had last year in 40 games. She is grabbing rebounds. On the defensive end, she's north of 20% in a defensive rebounding percentage. Her defense is significantly improved, I would argue, over even last year. Nas Hillman's doing great stuff. And just before we get onto a different team, Bree Jones, I had 6 front court people I was able to vote for. I was a media voter for the starters. I went with Aaliyah Boston, Nafisa Collier, Nneka Ogwumike, Azurá Stevens, Brianna Stewart, Asia Wilson. Bree Jones was clearly 7th. Didn't even occur to me that she wouldn't be a reserve. I don't get it. Bree Jones is an all-star. She's better across the board than she was last year when she was an all-star. I know it's differently, or different players. Kind of blows my mind. Anyway, Atlanta Dream, I've been saying it here, real good threat to be a top 4 team. It all comes together in the right way, depending on who's healthy. They could well be there at the end. So keep an eye on the Atlanta Dream. But another reason why Parity has been such a significant part of the last, let's say, 3 weeks, I use a 10-game moment, is, everyone's got at least 3 losses with that, sort of weird Minnesota carve-out that we discussed. But everyone except for Connecticut has at least 3 wins too. And so the Dallas wins being 5-5, and their net rating supports it. They're minus 1.5. So right there, basically playing even is a really big deal. And you can't have Parity without the bottom coming up as well. And I don't know if you had heard, but Dallas has a rookie named Paige Beckers, obviously, under the radar, but kind of significant. She is not the only rookie who is doing this. And as we've talked about on this, and we'll get more into after our break, in a moment where the league has basically everyone about to be set free, except for people on rookie scale deals, it's a pretty big deal that Dallas has multiple rookies pitching in. So here's our Jesse Morrison talking about exactly what it means and who's doing it.
Jesse Morrison here at PHX Arena for Locked On Women's Basketball, where the Dallas Wings just got blown out by the Phoenix Mercury 102-72. And yes, Phoenix, led by Alyssa Thomas and Sammy Whitcomb, thoroughly outplayed the Wings in this one. There were some serious bright spots for Dallas in this game. Specifically, rookies Isaiah James and JJ Quinterly were really impressive in this one. Quinterly with her shooting, Isaiah James getting to the rim, and I would say combine that with Paige Beckers being in Dallas, and the Wings definitely have a future.
Again, Phoenix with the big win. Artia Reed, who you heard from yesterday on the podcast with Natalie Heverin, She all but called it. Sammy Whitcomb shooting. Alyssa Thomas's triple-double. Phoenix now adding DeWanna Bonner. That is now official as we record. Mercury are 13-6, 7-3 in the last 10. Plenty of teams who can do plenty of damage in this league. That top 5 includes 4 with 6 losses or 7 losses. Parity. It matters. It's a big deal, and it's not going anywhere until the end of the year. And then the CBA and all kinds of craziness breaks loose. So we'll be back talking about that in segment 2. I'm Howard Megdal. You're listening to Locked On Women's Basketball. But first, Locked On Women's Basketball is brought to you by FanDuel. And summer sports are in full swing. It's not even just the WNBA. There's, give me a second. It's baseball. It's with the bat and the ball. They play it. It's happening right now. There's golf going on. There's soccer as well. Not just NWSL. The men apparently have a soccer league as well. FanDuel is the best way to make every game, no matter what sport, even more exciting. So with FanDuel, you can get in on the game even while your friends are just busy getting sunburned at the beach. Use FanDuel to track your favorite matchups. Use the app to keep it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. Now, if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Again, bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. So open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Back here, Howard Megdal, Locked On Women's Basketball. And we're going to have to talk about a couple of business side things because they matter. They matter on the court. They matter off the court. They matter so that those of us have a deeper understanding of what's going on here. I've said this on this broadcast too many times to count. You do not need to listen to the loudest, dumbest voices to understand and enjoy the WNBA and women's basketball as a whole. And that is no less true today. And I try to stay away from the discourse, and we try to talk about it as it actually exists, not as it's being framed. But I do think it's really important to talk about two parts of this. One is, what has the WNBA done right or wrong in a macro way, and what's ahead for that league as well? So let's start with the easy one. Read a report today in the IndyStar that essentially parroted a book that's come out talking about how the WNBA was not ready for Caitlin Clark. And that's a tough one for me. There was two parts to it. They weren't ready, and they haven't been able to fully take advantage. And all the framework of it is somewhere between confusing and gaslighting to me. You start with the idea that the league wasn't ready. And, I don't necessarily know what you can do from a business perspective fully. There's a counterfactual, I guess. But one of the biggest reasons why the WNBA saw the huge surge in audience that Caitlin Clark experienced at the college level transfer over to the pro level is the WNBA was running ads during the NCAA tournament. The WNBA was making direct connections between the college and the pro game. It's something they've expanded even this year. Preseason, you saw games. Sabrina and Esther got to go home, college home to Oregon. Caitlin plays at Carver Hawkeye. All sort of these different things that have led to outcomes that are somehow being used to bash the league. I did 14,000 people at a preseason game in 2024, and that somehow proof they weren't ready and didn't do it right, instead of, oh, everything translated. The audience went up exponentially on the TV side, on the ticket side, home and road for Indiana, but games having nothing to do with Indiana, which would argue not just that the league got it right, but that the league got it right in a way that doesn't just reflect one person. If you build your league around whether one person does well or does not do well, you are one non-contact injury away from your entire business blowing up. Talking about the league as purely one person guarantees it. And no one has needed to do that from the league, whether it is Kathy Engelbert or anyone else, in a way that has prevented Caitlin Clark from building and adding to her fan base. This is all working. Everything's working. I just, it feels gaslit, right? This is a success story. There's going to be a madhouse. When I go to Indy for All-Star, end of next week, it's sold out for months. There's going to be massive crowds. I covered All-Star games when this was not the reality we were living in. I covered All-Star games where I would look on the court and see Tamika Catchings and Maya Moore, and then I'd look up into the stands and see empty seats, and it would shake my head. But that's not happening now. So I don't get it. I don't get how this is some, every bit of success is treated as evidence of failure. It makes no sense to me. Make it make sense. Or don't. Or maybe it's not supposed to. When you have a predetermined narrative, maybe you don't need it to make sense. Other part of the business side is what's ahead. And again, this is not to imply the WNBA is incapable of making mistakes, or that it hasn't made mistakes, or that it won't make mistakes, as it is a human endeavor. And the extent to which we have heard from leadership in the WNBPA, players specifically, expressing unhappiness with the current proposal put forward by the WNBA, then it merits further study to understand exactly how far apart these sides are. But we are at a moment where the WNBA, and to its credit, we spoke about this last week, did not wait to add expansion teams until the CBA was locked up. So we have the expansion fees understanding coming in. They have signed a long-term deal for media rights. Say what you will about it. There's a lot more money there. There's a lot more money there everywhere you look. And so finding common ground and making sure that as two teams come in next year, the WNBA finds a deal with its players that make everyone happy. I have maintained and continue to maintain that I think it's very clear there's a deal to be done when there's this much money available to make such a deal. I think you're going to be able to find common ground. And you don't know, but I'd be very surprised if we saw a work stoppage in that moment. But it would be devastating if the WNBA doesn't find a way to make a deal with its players that makes everyone happy with two teams coming in. I mean, I guarantee you this positivity you are hearing from me is not because I come to any of these conversations from a place of inherent positivity or inherent negativity or something predetermined. I report and I speak to everyone and I evaluate as best I can and I show my work. And if the league does not get this right and does not strike a deal, you will not be hearing positivity from me about this during the work stoppage next year. But we got to find out. We got to find out what that means. What percentage of revenue are we talking about here? What does the salary cap look like? Who benefits? Do the rookies benefit more when you have an incentive to bring the biggest names in the game to the WNBA as soon as possible? Is the middle class getting squeezed? This is going to matter. Someone like Monique Billings, I'm just using an example, just had her season high in points last night and is thriving in Golden State, finally getting an opportunity to play. These folks built the league too, and they need to be rewarded. And the last CBA, which doubled roughly the max salary, but the salary cap, a hard cap, went up 30%. Middle class got squeezed. That's got to change too. So there's a lot to figure out. This is complicated. This is very hard. Again, other refrain you hear from me endlessly, we live in the gray area. There's a lot to determine for the league side, for the player side. A lot ahead. Needs to get done. But this idea, oh, look at all the success the league is having. What evidence of failure that must be. I don't know, friends. I don't know. All right. Back after this, want to talk about what we're going to learn this week. I'm Howard Megdal. You're listening to Locked On Women's Basketball. Big week ahead. And so I want to start with what we have coming Wednesday afternoon, a camp day game. Excuse me. Yes, it is a camp day. Good. Taking a look. 3:30 Eastern time, just out in Phoenix. Minnesota and Phoenix. DeWanna Bonner potentially making her debut for the Mercury. Minnesota Lynx with an opportunity to get to 18-2. That should be a fun one. Dallas at Chicago. We're seeing some strides from the Sky Dave Washington, all they can handle. As I mentioned, Dallas started out 1-9. Now 5-5 in their last 10. Do we see progress continuing there? Again, for Dallas, just free advice. Play the rookies. They're the ones under contract after this year. Also, obviously, Maddie Segrist, as soon as she can get back to, would be nice to see her out there. Thursday night. Boy, you never would have thought this start of the year. Aces at Washington. Depending on what the Aces do Tuesday night against New York, Washington with a win could take possession ahead of the Aces in the standings. Kind of blows my mind. Mystics, really impressive so far this year. Real young, but doing it. Doing it already. And those folks are under contract beyond 2025. As well. Atlanta at Indiana, I'm going to be fascinated Friday night. It'll be really interesting to see if Caitlin Clark can defend her home turf at that point. That'll be a fun one. Saturday on CBS, Golden State against Las Vegas. Did you have them tied in the standings coming into this one? No, you didn't. And then truly, what does New York have to figure out? Sunday afternoon, Atlanta comes to town. We talked about this last month. That was one of the games of the year. That was with John Paul Jones. New York's going to have to figure out how it wins without JJ on Sunday afternoon. A lot to figure out. A really interesting week ahead. Again, this league, so much parity, so much talent. Utterly fascinating to me to see what's coming. And yes, again, not about one player, not about one league. It's bigger than that. And so I'm glad that people are having those broader conversations about where women's basketball is and where it's going. But we're going to learn a lot this week. We're going to learn a lot in the coming year as well. So that's all for today here on Locked On Women's Basketball. Again, thank you for making us your first listen every single day. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Wilton Jackson will be joining us. We're going to talk more Atlanta Dream. So much fun coming up for you this week. Take a look for our continuing rolling out of team-specific shows. Have more on that for you next week as well. So until then, I am Howard Megdal, wishing all of you a chance to live within the gray area and join us again at Locked On Women's Basketball.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.